Greetings! Anton here with our first H3VR devlog of 2017. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, all restorative and filled with holiday meats. So, where are we beginning for the year? Well, for this week's devlog, it's going to be a little short, but I figured that I would start things out by giving you folks all an idea for what the 2017 roadmap for H3 is going to be, at least the first month or two of it. I've been, after taking basically a week to just absolutely coma out after Christmas, I've been getting right to work on the first really important order of business for the game that's going to be setting up all sorts of things that need to happen this year, which is finally migrating the game to Unity 5.5. H3 has actually been running on 5.33, which is a bit old at this point, along with a very old version of the Steam VR plugin, which is why certain things like mixed reality mode hasn't functioned quite correctly in terms of how it draws its masks, and a bunch of other little things. I've been perpetually blocked by show-stopping bugs, at least one, oftentimes a different one, in each given sort of version of Unity, but now I have finally found a stable version, or mostly stable, and have been getting some great help from both some colleagues who I've worked with in the past and a friend at Unity. So that's going well, but is still in progress. And what that means is that I can't push an update to the game until I know that that is 100% solid. And while it's going really well, this week I'm probably going to be having 3 or 4 sort of internal testers trying to play everything in the game and break it and find where things are still a little crashy or less stable than one might desire. But thankfully, if you had talked to me, 5 or 6 days ago, I would have just been in an absolute blind panic because nothing was working. But thankfully, things are in a better state now. So that's sort of item number 1 in the roadmap, is making sure that this migration goes really cleanly, especially because there are going to be 1 or 2 of these down the road later in the year. There are basically major features and functionality that I'm waiting for that are sort of slotted to be going into Unity 5.6 and 5.7. They're going to have a really major impact on the game. For 5.6, it's going to be the fact that what's called HDR, high dynamic range lighting, and MSAA, the type of anti-aliasing we rely on in VR to make things look really clean, will be compatible with each other in Unity, finally, which is awesome because it means that I'm going to be able to light things correctly, as well as be able to do some stuff with eye adaptation and just give the game what's called a filmic tone mapping curve, which, if you don't know what that is, it's, in a really important way, it's what makes almost every modern-looking game look modern, is the fact that it has a sort of a tone map and a color grade applied to it, which I've been unable to do properly because I've been stuck in LDR color. So, and that should make sort of low light scenes with flashlights, as well as the sort of impact of muzzle flares and anything that glows, be way better and cooler. So I'm excited about that. And then in Unity 5.7, there are some sort of low-level architectural changes happening in relationship to transformation and physics updates. That should hopefully sort of put a nail in the coffin of the last major performance issue that H3 has, which is that if you have too complex of an object in your hand, say a gun with like 15 attachments on it, and you go to slide yourself with sliding locomotion, the game has a seizure. And that's just related to the overhead of updating all those physics objects during the frame, and that should hopefully be ameliorated when that version comes out. So yeah. Next up on the list are basically the sort of 2 categories of system that I'm going to be focusing on in January and early February above everything else, because if I don't do them now, it's just going to get harder as time goes on. The first is to do a sort of an input and sort of hand pose system rebuild. I've been meaning to do this for a while, and after seeing touch get released and seeing how bizarre the position of those controllers is relative to the tracker route, it's sunk in home that I need to do something about this. So I'm going to be abstracting a bunch of things in terms of how the hand is represented, which should allow me to add a sort of controller, call it a sort of offset override per system. So right now, like with the touch controller, some gun handles are like up here relative to the controller, and I should be able to fix that in a global way, while sort of future-proofing the game to whatever controllers come out in the future. You know, everyone who's been following CS, it looks like we're about to enter an era of a million different types of tracked objects, and I'm sure new controllers. So better to get this done in preparation for all of that now. And do all of the sort of math in relationship to the hand correctly with it. In addition, there's some stuff I need to do involving input blocking that's going to be really critical for the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is I'm going to do a Locomotion system rebuild. I've probably mentioned this on Reddit, but seriously, my class, which is my Locomotion manager, at the moment is probably the single worst written piece of code in the entire game. It's 500 lines of abject failure. I just heaped more things on the pile and rerouted methods into each other as I was, prototyping, which was fast and allowed me to figure out, a whole bunch of different ways to move the player that were interesting, but it's not scalable, it's not clean, and any of you who've played with the touchpad Locomotion know it's not good. So I'm doing a scratch rewrite. I'm just starting with a blank canvas and making it all again. And that's going to come with a couple changes. For one, there's going to be far more discrete modes for the Locomotion. Because like right now, if you open up the options panel, and unless you've watched a bunch of videos of mine, it's not even clear which options are relevant to what mode you're in and what side effects they might have. So it's going to be much more cleaner and sort of discrete in that there's going to be a straight teleport mode, a dash mode, a sliding mode, which is you click on a point, you slide towards it at a constant speed, and a touchpad Locomotion mode, as well as some hooks for some future stuff I can't talk about yet, but is really exciting. And clearly with what options are relevant to it. There's going to be a bunch of customization for how things look when you're engaged in various kinds of Locomotion. So whether or not that holographic version of your head and hands shows up, whether there's a center reticle all the time for where you should be standing, whether there's a bounds that's always visible when you're teleporting as well. So I want to make that all customizable, both in terms of whether it appears or not, as well as what color you'd like it to be. There's going to be rotation support for those of you who are touch users and are doing a sort of forward-facing mode. I'll probably use the pattern that I've seen in a number of games where you sort of click the button down to initiate the teleport, and then you rotate, you sort of roll the controller to rotate that reticle. So yeah, and if I can get it behaving in a way that I like, that isn't glitchy, I'd like to add support for falling, for being able to actually go over a ledge and fall down if it's user enabled. It'll probably only be there for the touchpad Locomotion. This is something I've discussed a bunch on Reddit that is particularly difficult because of the authority that the player has over their position in the world, because you can just walk through a wall in room scale VR. So if I do add support for falling, it will probably have some sort of constraint on it, such as like really encouraging you to always stand in the center of your tracked range because that's where your Locomotion body is, or something to that effect, just so that it doesn't, glitch out. So yeah, so those are the two. Those are what are right now on my list for critical things that have to get done before really I can do anything else big that's fun. I'm totally going to be squeaking in some firearms and some other adjustments. I actually have a couple already done that I can't push because the 5.5 stuff. yet, but the sort of the development effort over the next 4 to 5 weeks is going to be focused on getting those two things working really well, because I'd like to do those both exactly one more time and hopefully never again. And then following that, sort of like rolling out into February and March, there's sort of two categories of things that I'm going to be focusing on. One is going to be the UGS system. So I really want to get user configured levels and scenarios up and running. So all you folk who want to do, IPSA or IPSC, 3-gun stuff, you'll be able to build that. I'll be building some of it as well. And folks who want to do sort of wilder modes in various environments will be able to create them. So that's going to be a huge focus. And while doing that, I'll be doing basically staged polish passes on the various classes of objects and firearms that exist in the game. As we all know, that some of them are way more sort of rounded out and polished than others. Examples of things that need to be fixed: handguns actually need to have their sort of nuanced hammer behavior, and sort of whether they're single action, double action only, or striker fire, that nuance needs to be added in and fixed. Shotguns have pieces that don't animate, like the triggers. There's still bugs with bolt handles. So each category basically needs some love, and I'm going to be doing them basically as a group at a time, sort of trying to clean them up and make sure that they're in line with the sort of level of verisimilitude with the real thing that I want. So yeah, that is the near term. That's about as far out into the horizon as I think I'm willing to talk in terms of this is definitely what's happening. So, but along that way, there's going to be a whole bunch of new firearms. I know some of you are really excited for the eventual arrival of some World War II guns, and I have been prepping those. I've been collecting models, talking with artists, and sort of doing the pre-production and Maya work for them, making sure all their materials are consistent, and doing tons of research, both in terms of shooting them in real life and reading up and making sure that I understand the mechanical nuance between them. A lot of open, a lot of open bolt weapons in that category, and other than the Mac 11, I don't have any of those in yet, so I need to make sure that I represent that system correctly. But yeah, I'm super excited. Personally, after my recent Battlefield Vegas trip, I got to fire a Browning automatic rifle, which out of the big guns from that era is probably my favorite, just because it feels like someone took a rifle and just went, let's make this 50 to 60% bigger on all dimensions, and did, and it's such a blast. So, but yeah, so there'll be plenty of those sorts of toys over 2017. This is the year that I want to add a whole bunch of other historical stuff, and so that's everything from some flintlocks, maybe a matchlock. I've got a whole bunch of 18th century revolvers. I just have this slowly increasing heaping pile of awesome models from 1700s and up, and they're going to be sprinkled in to updates over the course of the year. So I don't want to talk in too many specifics because I'd like a lot of it to be a surprise. But yeah, so that's about it for now. As I said, there's no update this week. I don't feel comfortable pushing something as crashy as this still is. There's still a couple things I'm hunting down to try to at least work around so that they're less common. But I will keep you all posted in how this goes. My hope is that next Friday I should be able to push a build. Please let me know, by the way, if you have any thoughts on stability, we want it now, but it'll be less stable, or wait till it's perfectly stable, because I never know exactly where folks fall on, that A or B. So yeah, well, enough rambling for now. Hope you all are still enjoying your sort of Meatmas gifts. A user actually posted a great little straw poll on what folks found to be their favorite Meatmas gift. The minigun one, of course. top, followed by the MTS 255 Shorty, which it's good to all know that you have fine taste in firearms. The P90, the RPG-7, the AUG A3, higher than I thought. And then what warmed my heart is right following that is the M14, because I'm such an M14 man myself. I wanna put one more M14 style firearm in the game at some point. The Springfield Armory, what is it? The M1A SOCOM 16, because I love the short form factor with the M14 and its sort of forward rail. Love it. But yeah, so looks like and all the way at the bottom, it looks like the PP2000 was the least loved gun, which it's so ugly. So I'm not surprised. So well, glad you're all still enjoying things. So yeah, well, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next week. Peace.